Greetings, minions and fellow gamers. This is Silverblade doing a game review of Planet Nomads. Right at the beginning, I'd like to say that this game was given to me for free in exchange for doing a review. So I'm not getting paid any money. I was just given the game to do a review, and that was the conditions that I have to meet, so here I am meeting them. So anyways, Planet Nomads version 0.7.1. The game has been out for a while, at least since late May of 2017. It's made by Craneballs, as names go for a publishing company. It's a bit weird, but this game here, if you're familiar with, say, Empyrean Galactic Survival, the game is quite similar, and it's also similar to Space Engineers. It's almost like a blending of the two games. It's got the more relaxed nature, I guess you could say, in terms of building and all, that you get out of Empyrean, and yet a little bit of the complexity that you would get out of Space Engineers. The exception is you're confined to a planet. So this is what the details is given by the publisher reads. Planet Nomads is a sci-fi sandbox game of survival on alien planets through block-style building. You're a lone astronaut scientist crash landing on a strangely captivating planet. Keeping your wits together and securing your basic survival needs that include food, water, and building material is the best start towards figuring out a way out of this messy situation. Planet Nomads delivers a unique gaming experience by combining building, survival, and exploration together to make you feel like a true survivor. Building. Building is the cornerstone of Planet Nomads. What you build determines your survival chances and increases your action radius. Building helps you to progress further and uncover advanced materials. Close to 100 blocks await to let you create nearly anything your imagination can come up with. Exploration. You may have explored your immediate surrounding, but a couple kilometers north or south, things are radically different. Multiple biomes cover the planet from pole to pole, depending on the climate. Sandy engine blends the biomes naturally, making sure the journey to the North Pole is an epic and ever-changing adventure. Survival. Surviving on an inhabited planet is no easy task, but with careful planning, caution, and a healthy amount of curiosity, you can do it. As long as you overcome poisonous plants and curious beasts, avoid being slashed to pieces, frozen to death, eaten alive, starved, and generally ended. Planet Nomads has been successfully kickstarted, is now going through its early access, and is being developed and improved together with our growing nomadic family. You are welcome to join us. So with that part aside, the PC requirements. Windows 64-bit, you would need a Intel i3 6300 or an AMD FX 6300 processor minimum. Memory is 4 gigabytes of RAM. Graphics, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 560 Ti or AMD R7 260X. DirectX version 11. 4 gigabytes of available space, although the installation for me was closer to 10. DirectX compatible sound card. Additional notes, Planet Nomads is still in development and system requirements may change. That is definitely true. One of the first things I will say about the game is it's extremely beautiful. It'll give your eyes diabetes because of how vibrant the colors are. It's visual diabetes. But the downside is the game, because it is in early access, is not fully optimized yet, and you may see some of that shortly. So I have all of my graphics settings. I'll actually show you. One thing I do like about the game so far, at least in terms of just the menu, is you do have control over multiple options in terms of the graphics settings. And trust me, a lot of this you're going to want to turn down low. If you have an older computer or one that is not top of the line, say you're not running a GTX 1080 or 1080 Ti or the latest AMD card, you're going to want to turn most of your visuals down low. It's not optimized really at all. Now I'm getting 60 frames at the menu. Guarantee you it'll be a lot lower than that once we get into the game. So you get sound options. I turn off the music because more often than not you get demonetized or you get copyright claims just because of music, so I don't play with that. Gameplay, you got your controls for mouse sensitivity and all that. That's all good. And you have keys that you can, I believe you can tweak all these, but I left them all as default. So let's get into a new game. Now the one thing they suggest is to name it Nomad, because if you're first starting out, you'll want to get adjusted to how the game plays and to have the resources around you without really struggling. It's a good way to warm into the game. Later you can create your own seeds and struggle at your own misery. So we'll just start off with Nomad. So as you see, the frame rates are starting to drop, and we're going to be getting into a cutscene in just a moment. It kind of tells a story, and you can read along. You won't need to hear me read it. I don't think there's any audio voice to read it. And here we go. This is gonna hurt. Told you so. Okay, so like a lot of these space survival games, you crash land on the planet in your survival pod or life pod, and you hit E to exit or to get back in. And this here has no supplies in it. It's all in your inventory, which is the I key. But you can get in it, and if you hit the space bar, you can sleep for 8 hours to replenish your stamina and health. And that is what is listed right down here. This is your health. This here is your you see, that's your not your stamina, but it's your tiredness, your food, and your water. This bar, there's a thin ring that you don't see right now because it's not being used, but that's your stamina. And then this ring here is the power to your jetpack, as well as your suit light. So let's get out here and get visual diabetes, because like I said, the colors are vibrant. Now I have the tutorial mode turned off. You'll definitely want it on. Unfortunately though, the tutorial is not very thorough. It does leave a lot to wonder what the hell is going on. but it's not too terribly bad. But I mean, it could be a lot more in depth. Now, as you can see, some of the textures are just crap. Part of that's probably because my game settings are turned down to the lowest possible, but even at high, it wasn't all that great. But right here we have nutrition capsules, purified water, batteries, bandages, and sleeping bags. You have your exploration suit Mark 1, which you can upgrade, of course, jetpack Mark 1, and multi-tool. And each has like secondary things with it as well. You also have a multi-tool, so you can come over here to like this boulder, and these boulders are basically, you're going to be hunting a lot of these. Now, right now, you see watch this. Look in the lower right, lower left of the screen, and you see that bar zipping down. That's the power of your suit being used by the gun. Now, if you hit R, you reload, and then you see in the lower right, 100 over the gun, and then 200 below. 100 is your ammo in the weapon. 200 is the batteries that you have for reloads. And as you can see, it's using up weapon. It's using ammo from the weapon and not your suit. So if you do run out of batteries, it is nice to have that backup. You can also save batteries and just go with your suit, but it takes a lot longer. So pick up some of that. Now that there is not something you want to mess with. All creatures will jack you up. And if you don't have suitable weaponry, or, well, hell, even though this multi-tool, all it does is tickle them. It doesn't seem to do squat. And they'll get right up in your face, keep charging you, keep getting right up inside your close combat range. And shooting them is kind of pointless. Especially when the frame rates start diving. And trust me, I have seen this game get down to 5 FPS. It's rather visually annoying in that regard. Right now it seems to be going pretty smooth, pretty good. Alright, so just showed you a little bit of the basics there. You know, you have to go after the boulders. These trees, you can shoot them down and get materials from them. And you see there's a ring forming around the center of the target there. That tells you how far done something is. There we go. So you're going to be spending considerable amount of time just to take a tree apart. There we go. And then the stump.
My sensors show you are slightly thirsty.
Yeah, I'm also getting slightly stung by those bees. So there's some plants, you know, like these right here that really aren't anything, but then you got plants like these. You'll get seeds and fruitage. That's where you'll get your food from for the most part. You can get meat if you hunt, but unless you have actual guns, don't use the multi-tool on the critters. It will make you sad. It will also make you dead. Because they're tough. They really are. And the multi-tool doesn't do squat. That's one of my little peeves about the game. Now, as you can see, you do have a suit light, which is kind of nice because when it gets dark, it gets pretty dang dark. So we got that outside. There's I showed you boulders, trees, how to cut those down, and also to harvest plants. So now let's get into building. Now this is a little bit confusing if you're used to playing Empyrean or Space Engineers, but you hit the tab key, and as you see at the bottom of the screen, the toolbar expands out from 1 to 0. You hit B, and it gives you your building options. So you can just click and drag, and you can't build any of these other things unless you build the things preceding it. So in order to build a base foundation, you need the 3D printer, duh. And then to unlock the FAD machine, you have to have the base foundation placed, and it just kind of procedurally goes along. It's kind of, everything's gated behind each other, which is, in my opinion, a bit annoying. I would rather have things that I can research to unlock instead of having to build all kinds of things. So right there, I just placed the frame down, and then let's see if I hit T, and that builds that. So I hit E to open. Now I could take the iron I gathered from the rocks, the cobalt or the carbon, and the silicon, and then also the biomass from the trees and plants that I zapped, and put it in the inventory part. And now we need to build a base foundation, which is going to require some of these. So we'll build 5 of those and 5 of those. So that'll take just a little bit. So now we'll just come in here, and you see because we built the emergency 3D printer, we now have the base foundation unlocked. And once we have some frames on us, we can get things put together. Now, if you wonder what it costs to build these, you can always just highlight over these from a menu. So it's 2 frames and 2 plates. So we'll wait for 2 plates to get made. Now there's all these other materials as well. You also have a sleeping bag. And one thing you'll probably want to do is also drop your nutrition capsules and water into this hot bar. The sleeping bag is, in my opinion, is kind of useless.
Dehydration level critical.
Alright, so...
My sensors show you are slightly thirsty.
Well, I just drank, so it should went up.
You are in a well-fed state.
Good to know. So I'll have another drink of water. That brings us about right. So now we'll go back in the building with tab, hit 1, and we'll just kind of drop it there, I suppose. Now I'm not too thrilled with the building mechanic of this. Also, if you hit the space bar, it's jetpack. The reason why I'm not too crazy about the build thing is because it doesn't always line up. I would rather it snap, and it doesn't really snap so good to other objects, because you might be out of alignment and not enough resources. That's just fine. So we'll cancel out of that, or go to the multi-tool, weld it all together with some of the steel plates we got. And you gotta wait for. I could reload the gun, but I'm just gonna go off the suit power. And I'm out of resources, so grab more of these. Alright, so with that, let's get a few more frames going. Gonna need some electronics too, and some of this. Alright, so once we get on the platform, we'll double click that to get it out, and then we'll put the FAD machine in and a compact container, because we need these to build and open up the building options to create other stuff. So and not enough resources. See, as long as you have frames, you can at least get something started there. And then these, if you look at some containers and objects, you'll see these red centered discs with a white border around it. Those are ports. So what it is you can take this, and if you hit X, you can change the axes that this will rotate from. So it'll be like that, and then you can rotate like that. That's kind of important to know because they connect. Like this is a container, a storage container. You can connect it to, say, a generator and put all your biomass in that, and the generator will automatically pull out resources, which is very similar to the conveyor system in Space Engineers. So we'll zap these in. Of course, we're missing composite parts and electronic parts, but that's coming down the line here. All right, so yeah, these red spots here, you can make them connect to other things. You also get conveyor tubes that you can branch them around every which way and connect them to other machines. But this way you can have one storage area, and all the other machines that are linked together to that one box will pull things through. So you only have to worry about one drop-off spot, essentially, which makes it kind of nice. It kind of automates things a fair bit. Alright, so we ran out of resources. Not surprising. Alright, so we need composite parts, but we don't have all the goods. Let's see. Oh, maybe we do. See, this window could be a little bit bigger, actually. Alright. How many do we need here? Oh, we need plating and composite parts. And that was all done. So let's see. No, we're not going to have enough plating. Phooey. Alright, so zap that in place. Let's go get some, preferably some iron, I think it is. And let's just reload the gun. Now, you have to kind of watch out here, because sometimes you'll come across critters that are very territorial and want to protect their area, and they will attack you. You can evade them by getting out of a certain range from them, but sometimes they'll just go right at you and stay on you. Depends on how badly you piss them off. So you can see it's getting pretty dark out. Now let's see if we can find another boulder here in the darkness. And the plants will respawn some of the resources you need, like right here for fruitage and seeds. Kind of looking out for boulders, really. And you will need water. Now, one nice thing about water is if you can't find like a lake or stream or even an ocean, find a low spot and then blast down at the ground like that. If you blast down far enough, the game does have a water table that you can reach, and you can retrieve water that way. Now, if you hear that sound there, that's called a singing crystal. And they come in different colors, and they represent whatever element they are. Now, there's some creatures over there. Those are more like grazing animal kind of things. Now, this here looks like it might be an iron one because it's red. So look, watch in the upper right corner. So yeah, when you see those, that you get a very big resource boost there. Now you can mine into the ground, but the boulders, especially when you're starting off, the boulders are the easiest way to go about it. Early on, you can get you can build a mining vehicle, and I will get into that shortly. I just want to get this roughly started here. And the big thing about the game is that you're a nomad, so it's kind of designed for you to run around and not really stay in one place. There we go. Alright, so let's get back to our little Shangri-La on Planet Diabetes. Alright, so we dump these in. That gets the printer going again. Get a few plates to finish up this machine. And then what I'll do is show you what things look like when things have advanced a little bit, and then I'll give you my thoughts as to what I think about the game. So this here you have to power up, but basically you put in food, and this will make food and water for you if you put in the right resources. Alright, so one last thing is the biogenerator. Now this thing here, if you look at it, see it's got that port. So if you use the mouse wheel to rotate, if you can line it up just right, like so. I don't think we have all the materials on us just yet. So let's get some electronics. Or wait, what was it? Oh, got it. Excellent. Alright, so now we'll use with Alt, Control, or Shift, you can take certain amounts of this. So with Alt, drag click, you take half a stack. So open that up, put it in the compact container. The bio generator will automatically take out what it needs to power it up, and as you can see, it'll run for 2 hours, 14 minutes, and 48 seconds. You have a meter from 0 to 250. It puts out like 250 watts or megawatts, whatever amount of power levels it is. Okay, it's just watts, 250 watts. So there's that. Now if you are in the build menu and hit C, you'll get this little menu here where you can turn it off, connect electricity, disconnect all electricity, and then you can rename the block. So we'll go connect electricity, aim at that, and click, and you'll see the green line. That will tell you that power is going from here into here, and we can now make stuff. Now, you'll want to get some herbs so you can make nutrition capsules. That's probably your best bet in terms of food and all that, especially early on. But if you're
temperature warning.
If you're in a bind, you can make a bio paste, which doesn't give you much food, only 5 food, but it works in a pinch, and then you can purify water. Okay, so that's a basic demonstration of how that all works. And of course you can build another generator here and plug in there, or another container or what have you, and have it all linked together, all nice and smooth. So I'm going to cut away, and when I come back, it'll be from my save game, which is a little further advanced than this. So don't go away. And welcome back. And this here is kind of a very crude base I slapped together in a previous game that I was playing, because I like to play the game a certain number of hours before I do a review. So I kind of played around multiple times, and this is the last game I was playing. And this is some of the stuff you get. Now this here is what I built just earlier. Technically, that was a different game, but it's the same orientation. So as you can see, that's how that works. And here we have a medium 3D printer, so you can make more complex things. As you can see, I've got all sorts of gear up in there. This here, I don't have all the materials for, but that's something else. And then we have these greenhouses, where you can grow herbs and fruitage, and you can pop that in there, and if you have enough, you can have a self-sustaining plant life of sorts. And then we got vehicles, and this is where shit goes sideways. Yeah, I got this copy of Planet Nomads when it was version 0.7.0. It's now 0.7.1. And apparently, vehicles are now horrendously underpowered. They don't have traction worth squat. And it's pretty easy to not be able to go up a slope of 5 degrees. So, getting around in a vehicle, even if it's properly powered and the wheels are set in the right alignment, it's a pain. It really is. Now, here's the thing that about vehicles is when you go in the build menu, you have many options that you can play with. You have, in this menu here, you can set the speed for each individual wheel. The steering, you can have it steer normal for this side, and the opposite side you have to do opposite steering, or no steering at all, like a rear wheel. You can change the direction, which is kind of awkward, and then there's power options as well. Over here you have the suspension, and you can change the stiffness of the suspension from high to low to medium. And these right now are set at moderate, which is medium. And then up here we have power blocks, or battery blocks, where you put in, you connect. I basically made one for each wheel, but from what they say, you can connect 1 to 2 tires. Now the thing is the speed will determine. Now I have these set to fast, and it says set to slow speed. That's the next power setting, which is just weird how that's done. But anyways, they're all set to fast, and the power consumption is 65 watts. So it's not enough. If 2 tires are set to fast, this is not going to be enough power. So that's why I did individual cells for each wheel. Now at slow, or possibly at normal, you can do 2 wheels, but not with fast. Now with this here, I got the middle wheels don't steer. The rear wheels will steer counter to what the front wheels are. So you get a tighter turning arc. And then I put storage up in here so I can dump off stuff. Also to note, I got the Mark II of jetpack suit and multi-tool. So that's kind of nice. One thing definitely to note is that balance on these vehicles tends to be pretty important. If you're too forward heavy or rear heavy, you're going to nose or tail up, which really sucks. You can get stuck on damn near anything. These plants don't usually bother you too much, but any incline that will rub up against anything like the suspension or the frame, you're not going to clip through it. Trust me, I tried. So this is what it looks like in the cockpit. It's interesting. And hit V, change view. So as you can see, my rear wheels turn opposite to my front wheels. And I am barely creeping by an almost level ground. And these wheels are set to fast. You'll get these little bursts of speed for no apparent reason. And sometimes, if your wheels are turned, you're going to keep skidding in one direction, and you're not on ice. Now, you notice this little slope, I am barely, well, I'm doing all right now, but some of these slopes you try to go up, you can barely make it. It's aggravating. And so I really hope that they re-evaluate their options when it comes to some of these vehicles. Now, this vehicle tends to be a little nose heavy and wants to roll forward, which can be countered by either going in reverse to stop the flip, or possibly putting more weight in the back, which is what I try to do with 3D printer and the storage options. But apparently that isn't enough, because it still wants to nose over. So I might end up taking those off and putting a biogenerator on it, have the weight of that hold it down. However, the more weight you add, the slower you'll go, and it's slow as mush as it is. Now, these are intended to be, where you can design a rolling base, a mobile base, because you're not, again, you're a planetary nomad. You're supposed to roam around. You're not supposed to stay so much in one spot, really. But it's kind of hard to do when vehicle controls are agonizing. But do note that this is an early access game, and they've been working on it for some time, and so given the amount of detail they put into it, and whoa, and now we're flipped, and now we're kind of boned. I think we can get out of it. Maybe reverse, forward. Nope, we're stuck. There's no means of getting out of this if you're not lucky. Now, sometimes you could skate backwards upside down, but apparently I'm in just the wrong spot. So we'll switch to first person there. Now, if I was to try to flip it, let's see if that does the trick. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. There we go. Up. And you get camera nausea, and you gotta ram into something, and there we go. Oh, alright, there we go. Whew. If you dig too big a hole, you're not getting out of it. You'll have to deconstruct the whole thing and rebuild it and that is not fun. It's irritating as hell. Now, part of it could be because the wheels are too close together, and that would definitely be my bad. But and there's ways of getting over. I think if you put a spar down the middle up front and put wheels on both sides, so you have kind of like a tricycle setup, but with multiple wheels in the front and back. That might keep you from tipping. Might actually even provide more power for moving forward, but it's an awkward setup. Anyways, let's get out of this mess. But yeah, I'm thinking like if you put something in the middle sticking out and wheels on it, that might keep it from tipping. But it also adds weight too, so that is another issue. But outside of that, I mean, it looks cool. You can design these any way you like. I do like that you have individual options, but I wish you could do it from the cockpit rather than have to do it individually. And it seems like it should be intuitive that when you snap a wheel on, that relative to the cockpit, they should automatically go in that direction. So if I put the cockpit here and put a wheel on, it shouldn't be rolling in reverse. Well, actually, that would be reverse. When you snap it on, it should automatically be going forward in the direction the cockpit's going. But that isn't the case. It's pretty easy that when you first put wheels on, that you'll have one side going one direction and one side going the other, and you go forward and you spin in a circle. Yeah, that's how I learned how this stuff works. There wasn't really anything in the documentation. In fact, this is pretty much all the documentation you get. So there's player, survival, building, build vision, and vehicles. That's F1 through F5. That's basically all the documentation you really get outside of the really basic tutorial. And what I showed you earlier in the basic building of the base, that's pretty much what the tutorial was. So, yeah, it's not ideal. It's crude, but again, it's an early access game. There's a lot to work on, but it is functional for the most part, sorta, kinda. And you can do stuff. Now, I don't have walls up right now, but yeah, there's all kinds of building options that you can do, which is pretty cool. I mean, you do have a lot of flexibility in certain ways, but again, there's a lot of things that could be much better. The interface could be much better. Um, instructions tutorial could be much better. Some of the key functions and stuff like that, like B and T and all this, could be simplified. But it is fun. It's addictive as hell. I've already put in a bunch of hours in just a couple days preparing for this review, and I have had fun. But this is one of those games where you'll have a hell of a lot of fun, or you will be taking a sledgehammer to your keyboard. That's just kind of how it is. Anyways, I would rate this game, considering potential and that it is early access, I would rate this probably a 6.5 to a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect, and not, if you overlook any of the flaws, it is kind of a generic game. It hasn't really set any new ground, say like Space Engineers, or even to some extent Empyrean, which are two games I regularly play and are featured on my channel. But with that said, it does have its own personal flair to it. It does in certain ways remind me of No Man's Sky, but without space. But I see a lot more function. Well, let me get in here. I see a lot more function to the game than No Man's Sky, and a little bit more point to it, which basically just survive, but to explore as well. Now, around the planet, as you can see, there's nav markers up at the top. Excuse me, and you'll find wrecks and things, notepads and things like that kind of hint that there's a story element coming. And in that regard, it reminds me of Subnautica without the water. So the game does have a lot of potential, a lot of interesting aspects to it, but it really doesn't seem to have anything new, nothing spectacularly new or revolutionary. Will you have fun with it? Again, you will, most likely, if this is the style of game you like to play. Will you trash your keyboard and mouse? Yeah, I can almost guarantee it. But it is entertaining. It will keep you occupied. I think it's worth the money that it costs. You'll definitely get your money's worth through hours of play. But yeah, I think the developers, if they can keep developing it, keep working on it, work out the bugs, add more features, which I'm sure is what they have in mind, this game has some great potential. But right now, it's I would say it's in a state of try it now so you get used to how it works and the world that it's in. And then you'll be ready for it when the game is actually ready. Now, I'm used to early access games, and a lot of them can be hit or miss. If the developers keep at this has some chops to it. I don't like those creatures. They're assholes. But I think in relation to some other early access games, say like 7 Days to Die, Empyrean, even Space Engineers, this game is not quite fully functional to play as an early access. With those other games, they definitely had their bugs, but they weren't game-breaking bugs for the most part. Vehicles that don't work worth a damn, going up even a 1 degree slope or 5 degree slope, barely even that. That's kind of game breaking, considering that's sort of the premise of the game, is moving around. So that's kind of why I give it the 6.5 to 7. There's some great stuff here, but it's a little bit too early. It's not quite ready for prime time, as they say. Alright, so without repeatedly saying the same things over and over again and again, which I think I kind of have, that is pretty much it for Planet Nomad. And, or Nomads, rather. Do check it out. I'll have the link to the game in the Steam store in the description box below. Let me know what you think. If you've been playing this already, let me know what you think. Maybe you can give me some tips as to how to make this vehicle work a little better. I am thinking that the wheels are too close together. That's my take on it. But it could be wrong. But if you haven't played it, it's probably worth your time to check it out, and or at least watch the game. Follow it on Steam so you know when updates come out, so you'll know the progress of the game to see when fixes to some of the issues I mentioned are addressed. If the developers can keep working on this, I would then wholeheartedly endorse this game for you to play. If the developers kind of give up on it, then, well, it is somewhat playable, but it's not something I'm going to play for a long term. So anyways, guys, that's enough for me. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this review is kind of giving you some insight if you're interested in this game. If you've not heard of this game, now you have. And check it out. And until next time, see you later. Twitch, Twitch.